In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but being the dick he was with the genocide that ensued, it was half a millennia of permanent bloodbath. Today we look at the history of this fucked up past. Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Research Reality, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day. The intro for our video comes to us from Akala, a UK hip-hop artist who is on the wall behind me. But Akala is not the only artist on the wall who has some choice words for this topic. So in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, I thought it would be good to highlight some of those other artists and see what they have to say about Christopher Columbus, those indigenous people, and what happened to them after Columbus landed. But first, a super quick rundown of who Christopher Columbus was. He was, of course, the Italian explorer who is credited with discovering America, or the New World. A new world that already had people living there with their own culture, their own customs, their own way of life. He also thought that he landed in South Asia and thought that he was speaking with people from India, therefore he called them Indians, a name which unfortunately persists. But Columbus's main goal in life, including sailing to the Americas, was to lead a crusade for the Christians to overtake Jerusalem so that they could usher in the end times. Like, Columbus literally thought that he was the guy to make this happen. That he was the chosen one to basically lead us all to Armageddon. But for a lot of people, like thousands and thousands of people, that's exactly what happened. What a guy, I tell you. This is because at the time the Crusades were really popping off and the Pope had made a lot of rhetoric about that same topic. You know, so on and so forth. There's also a great podcast called Behind the Bastard, where they do a deep dive into really terrible people throughout history, and they did a 3-part series on Christopher Columbus. I highly recommend it if you want to get some deeper information than what you might find here. Columbus was also a slave trader, and while that wasn't super uncommon for the time period, because most human societies, unfortunately, had slaves in some way, shape, or form. The thing that makes Christopher Columbus different is that even for his time period, he was treating the slaves in a way that made other slave owners just, like, shudder. Like, people wrote about him and just the barbarity of it all, and it just shows that, yeah, like, even if you examine him through the context of the period that he grew up in, which of course was a very rough time in human history, still, the metrics that you would stack him up against, he's still, like, way off the charts in terms of just being a really shitty person. And unfortunately, Christopher Columbus still has a federal holiday in the United States. Only now in modern times there has been a counter celebration for Indigenous Peoples Day, again honoring and acknowledging the people and culture that was here before his arrival. And now that that's out of the way, let's go back to the music, starting with Vinnie Paz and his song You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train. And the song starts off with Columbus came ashore, greeted with nothing but niceness, sailing west to find gold and spices. Which is all very true. The natives, when they encountered the Europeans, they offered them food, they offered them water, even what Christopher Columbus even described as like useless trinkets, which was probably, you know, an offering that was actually very valuable to their culture. But because it wasn't gold, he was just like, nah, fuck this. The natives offered them food and water, and in return they got enslavement and death. Go figure. The song goes on to detail how Columbus had offered his shipmates a pretty decent bounty for whoever saw land first. But when someone saw land in the distance and they reported that back, Columbus just said, oh yeah, I saw that like last night. And of course, you know, didn't pay them. Because he's a dick. And apparently, very cheap. Anyways, back to the lyrics. They were greeted by the Arawak. Columbus had them locked up, prisoners, in an hour flat. But on the subject of the Arawak that Columbus had first encountered, they were actually a subsect called Tainos. And Tainos come up in another song by Immortal Technique, who has the line, just like the Spanish exterminating Tainos, raping the black and Indian women, creating Latinos. Like, goddamn. Anyways, back to Vinnie's song. He wanted to find the source of gold, and that was that. When they thought that wasn't fair, then he stabbed him in the back. When there was no more gold, he took slaves instead, left 250,000 Indians in Haiti dead. They were just taking advantage of a passive people. They were just being the savages of a massive evil. So yeah, not a nice guy. So glad we have statues and a fake ass holiday for him. So moving on to the next song by KRS One with the song Invaders. America existed before Columbus. 30,000 years ago, we were here in Mexico. This one is for my people, my Mexicano people. The whole earth is yours and no human is illegal. Come across the border every woman and man. The US is the alien. Mexico, this is your land. Douglas Murray would probably have something to say about that. So, of course, the United States government went on to take land from the Mexican people by force. And personally, while I agree with the sentiment that, borders are essentially just a made-up construct and that the earth belongs to everyone equally, it would, of course, take quite the paradigm shift to really get everyone on board, to say nothing of just the institutional changes that would have to take place for this to actually work out in practice. Again, it would just take a huge paradigm shift, which, hey, this song is just getting us one step closer. Next, we have Akala, who we started off with, and we're just going to skip down to where we left off. Decimate a native, leave them in our path. Death and destruction, we kick back and we just laugh. When the culture values dogs more than certain humans, it is certain that we will always find the worst solution. And it goes on to mention decimation, the erase of a nation, and how nowadays the language has changed because, of course, people still bitch about having to read a sign in Spanish when it's like, again, those people were here before you. Like, come on now. But it's the same shit since the Nazis did within Europe. What Europeans were only supposed to do to natives. The word genocide now carries a little weight with it, but that doesn't matter when a killer is your patriot. And that's it for Akala. Moving on to Burning Spears with their song Columbus. Burning Spear is not on the wall yet, but soon, very soon. Christopher Columbus is a damn blasted liar. Man, he's saying that he's the first one who discovered Jamaica? What about the Arawak Indians? The few black men who were around here before him? We have to straighten this out, man, because Columbus is a damn blasted liar. Facts. Word. And last but not least, Lupe Fiasco with his song Around My Way, or Freedom Ain't Free. In all-white Los Angeles, the dream of Mr. Chandler. Hope and pray they take Columbus Day off the calendar. And that pretty much wraps it up. That's just a few snippets of what some of the artists have to say about Christopher Columbus, or Indigenous Peoples Day. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments below, or if there's another song that we did not cover that covers this same topic, definitely leave that in the comments below. If you like the vibe, hey, like and subscribe. We do have more videos like this where we pick an album on the wall and review the lyrics to see what our creative culture is telling us. But yeah, guys, that's everything for now. Fuck Christopher Columbus. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Definitely check out that podcast, Behind the Bastards, because it is excellent. And until then, guys, we will see you on the next video. Later.